When you start backpacking, everyone has advice. Ultralight hikers will tell you to cut weight so you can have the lightest base weight possible. Traditional hikers will say don't do big miles, slow down so you can enjoy your trail experience. And yet others will say don't worry about training or bring a redundancy of items. Well, after several hundred miles on trails like the John Muir Trail, the Tahoe Rim Trail, the Uinta Highline Trail, and many others, there are just some pieces of backpacking advice that I don't follow anymore. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel, and thanks so much for being here with me again today. Hey, in today's video, I want to cover a few pieces of backpacking advice that I just don't follow anymore, all of which have been given to me, some of which I did follow and had some consequences. So backpacking sometimes feels like it has a lot of rules. And many of these things seem very logical, but when you got some miles under your belt, your perspective kind of changes. So let's go into 6 pieces of backpacking advice that I do not follow. The first piece of backpacking advice is you have to go ultralight. Now, I think a lot of people have a good, sincere place where they're coming from when they talk through ultralight gear, or that you should be ultralight with a sub 10-pound base weight. The point is, less weight on your back is probably going to give you a more enjoyable experience on the trail and allow you to cover more miles. And I think that's great in and of itself. On paper, in theory, having less weight on your back is a good and probably a better thing. But this can go a little too far, something I talked about a couple of weeks ago in this video, when the weight and the gear becomes a status symbol versus a tool. Ultralight kind of gets us into an odd place. Also, if the gear works for you and it isn't ultralight or it bumps you above a 10-pound base weight, it's okay. If it works for you and you love it and it's providing value and it's a piece of gear that you would miss not having, then it's right. So the takeaway here is more about having the right tool for the job, not worrying about the numbers or what's on a spreadsheet. The second piece of bad advice is that big miles ruin your trail experience. The common belief is to just slow down and enjoy the trail more. The trail is a fantastic thing, and when you're out on a trip, you want to be out, you want to be away, and you want to enjoy that experience. Mileage can enable bigger and better experiences. I am someone who really enjoys my time on the trail. Camp for me is just a place to lay down and catch a few hours of sleep so that I can get back up and be on the trail. If I can be on the trail for 14, 15, 16 hours out of the day, I love that. That doesn't mean that I'm not enjoying myself or stopping for breaks or stopping and swimming in a lake or enjoying the scenery. It just means that camp for me is not something that I'm necessarily rushing to get to. I enjoy the time that is on the trail versus time in camp. So as a result of that, Colby, my hiking style will typically be a bit longer and bigger miles. Now, all of this does depend on goals, depends on the type of trip you're on, and what you do want to experience. But I will push back that bigger miles makes your trail experience worse. It just doesn't. And the third piece of bad advice is the hard stance that running is the best way to train for a hike. Now, this is very common training advice. We've talked about this in a couple of my videos that I can link. It's common because people associate running and what that does for your heart, what it does for your lungs, and to a lesser degree, what it's doing for your legs to translate to hiking. And that's not bad. Running is not a bad way to train for hiking. Is it the best way or the only way? I can argue against that. The challenge with running and what it doesn't do well is actually simulate what it's like to be on the trail. But running in and of itself does not prepare you for what a trail or a long distance trail is going to do to your body. Typically you run on very flat and hard surfaces, so you're not getting the loose rock. You're not strengthening the small little ligaments and tendons around your joints, your ankles and knees that are going to be put to the test when you're on a hike with lots of undulation in the trail. And as the old sports adage goes, practice how you're going to play or practice how you're going to compete. The best thing to prepare and to train for hiking is hiking. Strength training is helpful as well to incorporate into what you're doing to ensure that your muscles, joints, tendons, ligaments, all those little things are strong and ready for the pounding that you are going to put on your body, especially when you have weight on your back. So just to be clear, I don't think running is bad or the wrong way to train. I don't think it is the best nor the only way to train for a hike. And the fourth piece of bad advice is somewhat in a similar vein to in training, is that you don't need to train for a hike. A lot of the common thought is the trail will condition you, the trail will get you strong, and you don't need to prepare. And I am sure there are probably plenty of people that have done that, and my comment section might light up with people who have said, I didn't train at all when I went on the AT or the PCT, the CDT, or some longer trail. And I know that there are people that haven't trained that have been successful on trails. But I do know that often makes the first few days or weeks on trail somewhat miserable as you are getting used to wearing a 20, 30, 40 pound backpack with gear and going 10, 15, 20 plus miles day after day after day. Training is something you can do to make your hike more enjoyable from the outset versus the beginning of the trail being something that you can barely stomach. All right, the fifth piece of bad advice that I have received, this comes a lot from my experience and background in the military, and I have seen it even in the hiking culture. And that's a common phrase that 2 is 1 and 1 is none, meaning having redundancy in your gear. Now, having redundancy in some places and situations can be great. As a former airborne ranger, infantry officer, we did have redundancies in gear, and there was a reason for that. Our job required it, the mission required it, and the consequences of not having a redundancy could literally be life and death. I know the outdoors and backpacking should not be taken lightly either. There are definitely dangers in the backcountry and in our wilderness areas. But when you're on trail for hundreds of miles, weeks or months at a time, you can't afford to take redundancy in every piece of gear. The weight is too much, and weight matters on a long thru hike. But let's be honest, in the United States, a lot of our longer trails, you're only a few days away from a town or potentially a place you can grab a hitch. So you didn't bring a second item that was redundant because you wanted to save the weight and something went wrong. There is a good chance, and I have kind of caveats and asterisks behind that because I want to be honest about the seriousness of some gear items or things failing, but there's a good chance you're going to be okay for a day or 2 or 3 until you can get into a town and replace whatever that might be. Outliers exist. I freely acknowledge that. You can blow me up in the comments below if I'm understating or overstating this point. But in the hiking community, typically there is not a need to have a lot of redundancy in our gear. And the sixth piece of bad advice, and the one that is again has to do a little bit with the military and something I am intimately familiar with. You'll hear a lot of people talk about, well, it's military grade. If it's good for them, it's good for me. And let me tell you, from being somebody who's been on the other side of that and kind of seen how the soup or the sauce is made, that is not a great argument to base your opinion on. It sounds convincing because our military folks are absolutely incredible. Our veterans and our active duty, our reservists, our National Guards men and women are awesome. And the gear that the military provides is good. Is it great? It's not great. Most of the time, the gear is really meant to be very, very durable. And as a result of being very durable, it is very thick, it is very heavy, because it's got to last in some very potentially challenging environments and situations. So when something is military grade or the military uses it, I would think first, durable, heavy, long lasting. I would not think ultralight, comfortable, or a better option than what's in the civilian market. Outdoor gear is just designed differently and with a different purpose than military or military grade gear. Well, friends, thank you for being here with me again today for this video. Hey, listen, when you get into backpacking or you start hiking, you're gonna get advice from everywhere. Go ultralight, don't do big miles, you don't need to train. But after a few long trails, something becomes very clear. Most backpacking advice isn't wrong, it's just incomplete. Because the right answer usually depends on three things: your goals, your experiences, and the type of trip that you're on. And look, I have kind of fallen for this too. On the Uinta Highline Trail, I try to be as lightweight or ultralight as I could. And I used the 20-inch Mummy Thermarest Neo-Air, the old one that's kind of crinkly like a bag of chips. And I slept terribly on that pad that entire trip. I learned, and am continuing to learn, that backpacking systems and gear choices are very personal. For me, I am just fine adding weight, ounces, maybe even pounds, to my backpack if it means I sleep well and sleep better. What works for one hiker may make another hiker miserable. So instead of asking what's the right advice, the better question is what works for me. And the only way to figure that out is to get out on trail and learn with real miles. So friends, what is some of the worst backpacking advice you've ever received? Let me know below some of the crazy things you've heard. Maybe you've taken that advice and you've got a funny experience, or maybe one that's not so funny, but we can all learn from. And while you're doing that, consider liking and subscribing for more content like this. 2026 is going to be a big year. There's a lot coming, and I'm really, really excited for what it's going to bring to the channel. And training advice is actually one of the areas I think most backpackers get wrong in their preparation. So if you want to see the mistakes that most backpackers make, go check out this video right here. And with that, friends, I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.